Hello and welcome to Jessie James Beads. My name is Jem and today I want to share with you a really cute little design made with the Degas box. Now this is December 2024 and it's full to the brim of absolutely gorgeous goodies. Let's head down to the board, take a quick look at some of those and then we'll create a very cute piece together. Degas December 2024 Magical Mystery Bead Box. One of my favourite gemstone strands, absolutely gorgeous peach moonstone. Dancers at the bar. We've got another two strands which are absolutely gorgeous. Love these heart shapes with the cut work. Swaying dancer. We've also got l'étoile, the star, and that is absolutely beautiful. Look at those very, very fancy bead caps. We have got a most gorgeous velvet ribbon with ribbon end caps in green. I've got a trio of gorgeous beads with gold and pink enamel. We've got the study of a dancer, which is 3 different tones of that beautiful filigree style pendant. We've got the ballet class, which features almost a Mobius strip of ribbon, a gorgeous antique bronze, very, very fancy clasp set, and 2 more silver cutwork pendants. We've got a fantastic bead mix here, 4 ballerinas on the stage. Lots and lots of colours and textures to work with there, including some very beautiful ceramics and some gemstones. We have a big pot of beads, including these very fancy little drops with a ballet skirt, almost like a tutu. Last but not least, we have the little dancer collection, all antique gold in colour. Lots of different textures and sizes to work with in their really gorgeous little collection. That is the Degas inspired December 2024 Magical Mystery Bead Box. I've pulled some beads and bead caps from the Four Ballerinas on the stage bead mix. And I've also pulled some components from this fantastic little dancer collection. Now this is the one that's inspired our cute make today. Could be a pendant, could be a bag charm, could be a gorgeous little earring for the dancer in your life. Now we're not going to be using a huge amount of components, nor are we going to be very wire heavy today. So let's pop her down just for a moment. Lovely movement when worn in the ear, actually, with those gorgeous little ballet slippers down at the bottom. So we're going to be working with only 18 gauge round wire. And I have 2 4-inch lengths, and you'll need that for each little dancer that you make. So we're going to begin by finding the midpoint on our first piece of wire, round 18 gauge, and I'm working with a copper colour wire today. And what I want to do is just to turn a little bend in the middle there. Just make sure that that's nice and flat before we gently flare out each of those ends. Now if you work with wire, then you'll know that warming it will really help you on your way. We do want those to be the same length, so if you haven't got exactly in the centre, you can just trim one of them so that they both meet in the same place. So it's not at all a tricky design. What we're going to do is go about halfway down the length of that wire, and we're just going to flare that wire out as symmetrically as possible, like so. And if you do manage to get one that's slightly different size to the other, then you can just give that a little squeeze and you'll fix that very, very easily. So let's put our pliers across again and bring those 2 wires both towards the centre bottom, just crossing over for the moment, before we then open them back out like a ballerina on point. You may find that you just need to do a little bit of extra work with your hands today. And then we're going to, on this length that we have down here, come ever so slightly closer than halfway up and bring that wire around to the centre. Grip a hold and then just turn that back so that you have this little slight curvature going on. Once you've got that little curve in position, we're just going to use our flush cutters to trim that away just inside that ankle, if you like. So let's just open that out for a second and try to get something a little bit similar on the other side. It doesn't matter if it's not completely exact. So draw the tail of that wire up towards the top, but don't take it all the way to the middle just yet, because we will then pop the pliers in at the toe. You might like to make that just slightly closer, draw it back out, pop in at the toe, and then draw that wire back outwards again. Now you remember we were here just a moment ago, we're just going to trim the end of that wire away. I'm just going to put my finger over the end to stop it pinging into the camera. And then we just need to flatten everything down. Now you can take a second to just make that look a little bit more delicate. So for me, I would very much want that to be just a little bit of a pinch on the toe of that wire there, just to bring those two together. Now it's an artistic representation, doesn't have to be a perfect representation, it's just a little bit of fun and movement in the design to reflect the artist's desire to also reflect movement. So if you do have access to a hammer and block, then you can get that a little bit shinier and stronger. I'm going to be using my mini block and my chasing hammer, and I'm just going to support those little toes in the position I want to see them in the final piece. And just strike down to get them nice and shiny and nice and firm. I'm going to do the same at the other end. Just support the toe end. If you do struggle with spatial awareness, you can absolutely tape your piece down to the block and then strike without fear of striking yourself. Now what you'll notice is when you've got open-ended wire, when you hammer it, the ends move slightly from where they once were. So because we haven't smashed this completely flat, what we're going to do is just turn those little slipper parts up and outwards like so. So it's a little bit reminiscent of feet on point. For the next part, we're going to use another piece of that 18 gauge wire, and this is about a 3.5 to 4 inch scrap length. You can use your round nose pliers or your bail makers. I'm going to use the small side of my memory wire finishing pliers to create a small loop. I'm going to put the loop on the end of that wire and then draw the wire away so that we have a nice straight line. What we will then need to do is just close that circular form up to make sure that the cut end meets the angle change. Give it a little bit of a squish to make it nice and firm. If you don't have a hammer and block, you can use that same technique on the slippers. Once that's nice and firm, you can just open that up gently and apply the lowest section into the loop. Close that back up. Give it a squish and try to ensure that your wire is nice and straight, coming up and away. Now what I've done is I've tried to create some space between each of the beautiful bead caps that I've chosen to work with. So I'm going to do that by using one of the very small bead caps from the Little Dancer collection. So I'm going to pop one of those on first, and then I'm going to interleave a bead cap with a small bead cap, and I'm going to alternate the colours. So I've got gold, then silver, then gold, but in between each is one of the slightly smaller pieces. Finishing off with the golden bead cap, and then I'm going to add in one of these encrusted beads. It's got gorgeous little marquise shapes peeking around the belly of the bead. Slide that down onto the wire. And then I'm going to add one of the gemstone beads, which are absolutely gorgeous. It feels like a crackle agate, I'm not sure. Then we are going to add on, bear with me, I've missed one component, which is one of the small bead caps just at the top. Then we're going to add in the gemstone bead, and then the little halo crown up at the top. Once that's sitting nice and neatly, I'm going to grab hold with my pliers, draw the wire towards me. You can see that I popped my pliers across that core wire so there's a gap, and then again I'm going to use my memory wire finishing pliers to create a loop. Draw that all the way around before closing up with that little tail of wire. So I'm going to fill the space with 1.5 wraps, get it to sit straight before trimming that tiny tail away. Making sure that you then push down the last little bit and straighten up that loop so that it sits at the top of your little dancer, like so. You may find it beneficial to just very gently curve down the petals on the lowest of those beautiful floral inspired bead caps, and then draw them up on the highest one. And now if you're gentle and slow, what will happen is you will open up the sections of the tutu so that it becomes much more visible. And there you have your pair of little dancer earrings or individual gifts for two friends.